siwe ndinoda kutaura newe naurwa zviri mberi dzikama nditaure newe mwanangu mugari wenhaka teerera unzwisise mweya mutsvene munyaradzi wako anoda kupiwa nguva.
Welcome, beloved, and today we are trying to learn and to understand, the little things that you can do, that you should do rather in your walk with God. Remember, your walk with God, you don't start by doing great things or big things, but you start with the little that you can do. And we are taking today our capsule reading from the book of Esther, chapter number 4, verse 16, and it reads, "Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me," right? "Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Okay, so today we try to look at one of the most understudied but most talked about occurrences in the history of the Jewish people, and we'll try to learn as believers in this modern day what we can take away from that, what we can learn from that. And so it is important to note that the Jewish people had been under captivity for approximately 120 years, under Persian captivity by this time, because Esther was not a queen in Israel at this time, but she was a queen, a Persian queen, a queen to a Persian king. And the 70 years that had been spoken by Jeremiah in Jeremiah chapter number 25 verse 11 prophesied that after 70 years God would return the people to the land, all right? And after 70 years, the 70 years that he spoke about, they came to an end in Ezra chapter number 1, all right? In Ezra, they were allowed to return to the land, but that did not end slavery, because the people made a beeline to return to the land, but they never did return to God. There is a difference between going to God and going to a land. For example, I can give an example. There's a difference between going to church and actually going to God. Going to church and going to God, there's a big difference. The people returned to a place, but they did not return to the giver of the place, you understand? And so the land was a promise from God to the descendants of Abraham. And so we can take a side note. Your captivity and slavery will not end when you hold on to the promises of God without hold on to and crying out to the God of the promises, right? You need the God of the promises more than the promises themselves. The book of Esther is 52 years after Ezra chapter number 1. That is the events that are recorded. And the Jewish people were not where God wanted them to be. What was the importance of them being in Israel anyway? This is because this is where pure fellowship was only possible, for the simple reason that their worship was centered on the temple, a physical structure, and the temple was only in Jerusalem. You understand? So now it means that for 120 years, the people did not have the pure fellowship of God. And it means also to us, right, to them being out of the land, right, they were out of the will of God for them. And what took them out of the will of God for them? It was sin, all right. God wanted them in the land, but they were not out of the land, not because God drove them out, but because they sinned, and the consequences of the sin was their removal from the land. When we rebel against God, we are removed, right, from the will of God, not by God, but by our action. Remember that. Remember, it is not God who removes you, but you remove yourself, right, by your action and by your decision, right? In the will of God, that is the only place where we can be full temples of God. However, despite not being able to pray the prescribed way in the temple because they were in a foreign land, Esther and the Jews did the little they could do according to the will of God. They fasted, all right, and they did what they did, and God intervened, right? See, right now you may not be exactly where God wants you to be, that is in your fellowship and in your relationship with Him, that is in His perfect will. But if you do the little things that you can do, just as Esther and the Jews did, the help of God is availed to you, saving you from destruction. What am I saying? Do the little things that you can do in your walk with God. And as you grow and as you're faithful in the little things, He will give you the grace to do more, right? Always remember, depending on the levels of maturity and understanding, we are all at different stages of growth in our walk with God. Do not be discouraged when you cannot do certain things based on where you are, but fight hard to do the little things that you can do, and grace will strengthen you in your weaknesses. All right. Blessings, beloved, and until we meet the next time, do what you can do where you are and be faithful, and God will strengthen you.